welcome again to the St. Lucie County Public School Speakers Bureau. On behalf of myself and the board and the superintendent, we thank you for attending this program. Now, for those of you, if this is your first time watching the program, we are a program that is here to encourage, to inspire, and to motivate our students, but also our community. And we do it through telling our stories. So we don't say what you should do, we tell you how we've lived through it and what we have done. And maybe you'll get a nugget or two that can help you in life as well. So that's what the program is all about. And we have a very special guest with us today. We have the Principal of the Year, Miss LaTanya Greene. And she is here to just share with you some of the nuggets, the wisdom, and how she's come to the point that she's at today, and how she, through her experiences, can maybe encourage you. So, Ms. Greene, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you, Dr. Mills. It is a pleasure to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
As Principal of the Year, it's no easy feat at all. And I had the opportunity to come to your school. I was absolutely amazed. I've been bragging about you, girl, ever since.
Thank you. You're too kind. You are too kind.
No, I love people who are, they don't just talk the talk, but I see them walking the walk. I see the energy and what they put into what they are doing. They put their whole heart into it. And so I'm always encouraged myself and inspired by people such as yourself. I see, when I walk in that school, I see your whole heart. And that, and your gifts, you're using your gifts to really be a blessing to our children, but not just our children, the people who work with our children, which are very important, and sometimes they feel like they're forgotten. But when you can pull the best out of people, and all of you work together to bring the growth and the progress that you brought at your school, it's a blessing to know you.
Yes, thank you.
So at this time, I guess we would start with letting you share with us what it is that you do.
Okay, absolutely. Well, as Dr. Mills said, as you said, that I am the principal at Parkway Elementary School, LaTanya Greene, and I am the Principal of the Year for St. Lucie County, which is a huge honor, one that I do not take lightly. It is a big bear to carry, because we embrace what we do on a daily basis, and we have some amazing leaders in our district. I am a hometown girl, born and raised in St. Lucie County.
Native.
Yes, I am a native of the area, and such just a proud, rich upbringing in the area, having such a family that was so grounded in what Fort Pierce was about, what was the making of Fort Pierce, what the village that poured into to you through family. I was actually able to be a proud graduate of Lincoln Park Academy, and I was a part of the first graduating class when it transitioned back into the 6th through 12. And what was so nice about that honor, not only just being a part about being the first, which years before that, 20 years before that, in 1970 was when that was the last class that came out, and my father was president of that class. Yes, so it was nice to have that merging of the two, and being able to have that piece in history that also sets a tone and lead a legacy throughout, and then family members that went forth and continued through Lincoln Park, and then my oldest son graduated from Lincoln Park in 2020. So it has just been a nice legacy, and like I said, very rich in the community, being upbringing here and being able to truly be a part of this community. And then I left here and I went on to Florida State and got a bachelor's degree in social work, and I was trying to fight the education spirit that was on my family. Everybody in my family almost was an educator, and I was like, no, I'm gonna do something different. and here we are. And then after that, I've tried to work in different places, and then it was, life and everything that happens in family. I found myself back in Fort Pierce, and I've just been on a journey to continue the legacy of my family, build my family, and continue to pour into this community the same things that they poured into me.
So you came full circle.
Full circle.
That's a
Full
good
circle.
thing. Yeah.
Full
My
circle.
husband came full circle too. That's how I ended up here.
Full circle. Yes.
Yeah. He traveled. He left. Because he's a native on here too. Always talks to me about Fort Pierce and how it was and how it is, and he's been able to enlighten this Jersey girl who came. It's over 40 years now that we've been back here. So he went full circle and brought me back to his hometown.
And you become one with it when you come back. It's a small community, but everywhere I go, wherever I'm traveling, it always amazes me of how many people like, oh, you're from Fort Pierce. Are you from? They know someone from. They know Fort Pierce, and that's worth bragging about and worth knowing. We have some very deep, rich history here that we could go on for days and days and years and months about the things that take place or have taken place or what Fort Pierce or St. Lucie County is known for.
So tell me, what was it like for you personally growing up in Fort Pierce, and even your journey when you left and came back, and because you said social work, but you're not a social worker today. So talk to us about your life.
Yeah, it was at the time when I was growing up, although the world was different, things were different, schooling was different, I still was able to be brought up in a community that really, like I said earlier, was about the village. It did not matter the race, it did not matter the gender. My family had worked very hard, and if anyone that knew my dad was like a saint, not a saint that went without any error or flaws in life, but he was such a pure-hearted person, and I think that's what starts to set the tone of how people deliver or receive you, and I think that's a lot of that.
So tell us a little more about Dad.
I will,
because I don't know Dad. I'm that Jersey girl that came 40 years plus ago.
Our Curtis, and I lost my father actually in 2020, unexpectedly, and that was a very life-changing, altering episode in our life. Or
what's Dad's name again?
Curtis. His name is Curtis.
Okay.
Curtis Clark.
Curtis Clark.
Yes, Curtis Clark. Yes. And even going back before that, although my father was very well known, but my grandfather retired from St. Lucie Public Schools as a maintenance worker at White City Elementary, and he had been there for over like 20 years at one school, and retiring. So we had a sense of community.
So Dad is a native here as well.
Yes. Yes.
And what did he do? What was his profession here?
He was grocery store manager, business, on that side of life. Yes.
And back then, everybody knew everybody.
Everybody knew everybody.
Yeah. And it was a village. My husband reminds me all the time.
Yes, it's village. And if you ever went in Piggly Wiggly, that was down on Orange Avenue, like you knew my dad. He really was that person. And again, I always like to preface that with such a very pure-hearted person, very spirit-filled, and he was always going to do right because it was just right to do right. So I'm not saying that he's a person without flaws, but definitely one to set the tone to mentor for a lot of people in the community. And wherever my sister and I went, or even my kids now, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're Curtis' daughter. You Curtis." And I'm like, LaTanya, yes, that's my daddy. That was my daddy. But something that him and my family, along with my mom, my grandparents, that was something that in general our family was really big on. It's like, you just do right by people because it's right to do right. You might not always get it right, but what sets you differently, or sets the difference between you and another person that's still striving to do right, but you have to be genuine about it. It has to come from a place of good intent. And when you lead your way and walk that way accordingly, and I'm really old school and very, church was our foundation. And it was like, you walk a path of how you want people to pour into you. So you give
Do
out
unto
what
others is that you would have them do unto you. Treat people the way you want to be
treated.
And you may not always be treated the way you want to be treated, but don't measure it by that. Treat people the way you want to be treated, regardless of where someone else is coming from.
Totally agree, and that was a lot of my mom, who is still alive, and I mean both of my parents' philosophy. And you know, when you're coming from a divorced family, so many odds could stack up against you. Coming from what would be considered a middle class, but maybe kind of upper poverty, kind of right at the brink of middle class family growing up at that time.
Now you said something about a divorced family.
Yes.
Your parents divorced.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the odds can stack against you. You know, it is about, you know, when and where do people start pouring into you and believing into you to help you believe into yourself.
Other than your birth family.
Other than your birth family. I remember when my parents got divorced, I actually was I was in college. I had just started my first year in college. And I had so many choices. You know, I could have chosen to give up. I could have chosen to come back home. I had an 8-year-old sister, and her life was impacted as well. And my dad, he was like, absolutely not. You're going to go forward. Like, we'll take care of this. You move forward. You know, everything that I have is going to go into my children moving forward and going and getting their education. Now, what you decide to do with it afterwards is on you. But however, as long as one of his sayings was, as long as he has breath in his body, he was going to make sure that his kids were taken care of.
And that's what he did.
And that's what he did. That's what he did. And so many of, if I could only possess a quarter of some of the things that, you know, I would probably approach so many things so differently and, you know, handle things a little bit differently. And, you know, but I know his spirit, you know, is always hovering over. You know, I have my mom here for guidance, and she gives that tough love, and she's like, listen, you know, we buckle down and we make it. And, you know, but it's, you know, as a daddy's girl, being the oldest.
I have a daughter like that. She's a daddy's girl.
Yes, and being the oldest.
And she's the oldest,
Yeah, it's a different relationship. And my parents had me when they were very young. So a lot of times I may not, when I look at even my students that I service today and students that I have serviced over time, you know, I look at it that I could have been any one of those children. You know, I can look at some parallels, and I can definitely look into some ways that our ships are definitely sailing two different paths. But, you know, the end of the day is that somebody believed in me. Somebody, you know, I wasn't born into this world like this believers. Like, I had to be taught that somebody had to believe in me and show me what that looked like along the way. And I just owe it. You know, it's my obligation to be able to give that back to our community and to our children. Even if I wasn't in education, it stems from somewhere. I started my career working for Guardian ad litem when I was totally against going into education. And I was on the opposite side for kids. And it was very taxing to be able to stand there in front of a judge or meet with families and talk about what's best for kids. And it's like, how do you get on the other side of this? And that also helped with some of my decision to kind of just throw the, you know, wave the towel and go in and go back and get those education courses.
But you started back, that's what I'm going to say, you started back, you came to the school district as a teacher.
Yes. Yes.
So you just was jumping from one thing to the other, really.
Exactly. Trying to figure it out.
In that classroom with 25, 30 kids in that classroom. You know, I think about that now, and I'm like, and you have children that come from all different backgrounds, all different families. You got to deal with all them parents.
Yes.
And it takes a special person to be a teacher, like it takes a special one to be a social worker. Or working with families that are struggling. I totally agree. It's a unique skill. It's a unique skill. And when I watch like beginning teachers that may have not been education majors or may have not, you know, walked that walk, to watch them grow and develop, and to be like, whoa, like, no, this is it. You have to have the heart Yeah.
You have to have the heart of wanting to be in front of children, that the world is different, life is different, parenting is different, being a child is different. The environment and the world and the, you know, some of the things that we just can't fight against. All we can do is just show up for them on a daily basis and give them everything that we can and just hope. You know, my dear friend Heather Belitho always constantly reminds me that hope is not a strategy. She'll go, Greene, hope is not a strategy. And you know, and we kind of, you know, have a very beautiful sisterly banter back and forth. And I was like, listen,
you have to have hope.
Some of these babies, that's all we have. It's like
after
hope.
you've done all that you could do, you just have to hope that it turns out well. And that's key. And that's key. And you have to see it through to the end. You have to see it through to the end. You know, sometimes when I think about just life in general, even in my personal life, is, you know, once you commit, and you have to go in, you know, and even if the end result is not something that you ever expected, you have to see it through. I actually went back to IRSC and majored in the education program because I'm a teacher at heart. I know that. And all about programs that we've had in our nonprofit, I'm always teaching. You know, I'm always helping, I'm always tutoring. You know, I'm a teacher at heart. I've had classrooms, I've done the substitute thing, but I gotta have control. You know? So I, at one time, even had my own little school, you know, and it's all about planting into the lives of our children, and sometimes it's tough love.
Yes.
You know, a lot of times it's tough love, but it's still love, and the child can tell when it's still love and when you really care. But what happened was I ran for school board. Otherwise, I probably would be right in this education program as a teacher, and only God knows what there. But I really do appreciate the people who work and educate our children, especially those who put their whole heart into it. You know, So okay, let's go back into your childhood, because you were raised by both parents, and then when you went to college, that's when they broke up, but they still raised you.
Yes.
Your father was still a strong daddy in your life, which is a real blessing. As a teenager, were you always perfect like you are today?
Oh,
can you share with us some of that?
Well, now, I'm going to tell you, I can tell you my version, or you can absolutely not. If only I wish, but here's what I tried to do. I tried to always not put my parents in situations that would be so hurtful to them. That it sometimes you could not rein back from that. There were definitely things that I definitely lived out my teenage, my high school, and what's so interesting about that time, which is such a great question. Now, my girlfriends, when they see this, they just gonna probably die. But so at that time, when Lincoln Park had been brought back, the magnet, and we were moving, and each year we were adding the year. So we literally went from 8th grade. Several of our friends may have split at that time if parents didn't want them to stay, so we added the year each year. And so when you kind of snuffed it all out and who was staying and who was going, we only had a graduating class of about 72 people. And so what was nice, it became if you went to Lincoln Park, you know, just some of the myths behind it was like, you know, your family was rich, or, you know, you were this kind of person or that kind of person. And we looking around like, far from, you know. And so I think some of that pushed us into make some of those decisions like, no, like, we real people like you. Like, we gonna skip school too. And we gonna do this, you know, to make this mark on life of all those things that are great. But no, I was a typical, teenager. Going through high school, going through school. I would do things that I'm sure my parents were not happy about. I would break some rules. I would like, oh, I don't know if that's really the whole story, Mama, but you know, if I clean up this Friday, do you think I can go to the football game? You know, or the teachers had to call my house too. You know, my mom and dad were definitely had two different types of discipline styles. My mom was really the disciplinarian. My dad was the talker, and he would like to talk it out and be like this. And
Mom didn't
it's
talk
like
it
my
out.
mama wasn't talking, honey. She was like, yeah, we'll talk about it later. But you know, it was, and there were things that I wanted to do as a high school student or growing up in this area that I couldn't. But here's one thing that will always stick out to me, and something that I really pour into my own children and the children that I serve. And I think because sometimes kids, students, or young adults, children, wherever you're at in life, they get so separated from what keeps you grounded. They get so separated from how do you define a friend. They get so separated from who are the people that are standing in your corner, and who are people that they might stand there for a second, but at the end of the day, if in the world ends, who do you have that really has your back, that truly is rooted and believes in you and invested in you, just with nothing in return, just as a true friend. And there are 5 of us that has always been my core group. Our birthdays are April, June, July, and August. We pretty much were right all there, and we have a September in September. They're together, and our families help raise each other.
Okay, that's what I you went to school together.
Went to school together, families together. A couple of us kind of branched off and went our different ways for like colleges, but at the root and the center of it all, there is a core group of us that I was raised with, that I went to school with, that no matter what our paths take, I'm always rooted in that. I'm always even when we might have done the same things kind of coming through high school, and it'll be like, well, you know, like my friend so and so, her parents didn't put her on punishment, why I'm on punishment? And they like, yeah, no, like we've all taught, we got it figured out. And I think right now a lot of that is missing, and not at a
Was the parents also friends as well?
Parents are always parents, friends, and even Dr. Mills, I have a 19-year-old and a 22-year-old. Even with some of their friends, I can't say I know all the parents.
Right.
I can't
But
say
you're that group with you, and we've lost that.
And we've lost a lot of that. And again, I always say when we make statements like that, is that there's, you know, I tell my staff, and something my staff and I talk about all the time, is that parent from the best place they know how to be a parent. And children are going to be children from the best place they know how to be a children. So it may not look like how I was raised. It may not, you know, have that same path, have that same focus. But somebody has to help. You know, somebody has to support. And when they are unable to do, that's when it takes that village to be able to jump in.
Oh, it takes the village.
It takes the village, because I can't say every decision that I made. When you asked me about my high school, like I probably talked to 20 people in the village before it got to
before it clicked. Before it clicked. Yeah, and that's why it's so important to have that village, because the parents can talk and talk and talk, and even discipline but if you don't have others in the community and people are on the same focus and on the same goal for that child, and are working together.
Yes, and that's key.
And we can't skip over the parents. Like I said, we can't skip over the teachers and those in the district that work directly with the kids, because if mama's not happy, you know, the whole household is messed up.
The whole household messed up.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do much anyway at that time, being a small community. I remember even being an elementary student at Port St. Lucie Elementary School, which is the built out part of Northport, because they tore the Florista building, it's being used as something else. But even when I think about things like that, like we could not do anything or go anywhere without somebody knowing you, or without somebody like. So it's almost kind of like, okay, well, if we want to skip school, or we want to like do these little things in school, we're not gonna get very far, because
everybody's working together.
Everybody working together, exactly. Everybody working together. Everybody working together in the community. So and I think that's too, as the community and the times change, which you want to see growth, you want to see things change. If we were still doing things the same way we were doing 60 years ago, we wouldn't be getting anywhere, even
Right.
20 years ago or 10 years ago. So we know that the world has to change. We know we're forever evolving. It's just how we approach it,
Right.
and how do we deal with
And
it.
one thing about it, if you have that care and concern and love, you know, and I'm a stickler on that love.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, because my Bible, and I'm very, you know, I say I have relationship. I don't
Yeah.
like saying I'm religious, but people would say I am.
Yes, yes.
But it's relationship with my Lord and Savior that tells me that if I
Absolutely.
don't have that love, that means that care and that true kindness and that true concern for
Yes.
humanity and that true wanting to do to others the way I want to be treated. If I don't have that, it's nothing. Everything else I do is nothing.
Yes.
So even though the world is revolving and evolving and all this, that has to
Absolutely.
remain steadfast if
Absolutely.
we're going to really make the difference with our children. Now, I know you believe in second chances because your story has already told me that. Who or what are you most thankful for?
Ooh, you know what? The what would be life. Let me tell you, life. And the who would be my family.
Okay.
Definitely thankful for them. Without my family, it just kind of, again, and this is probably going to be an overuse of the word, but you know what? The pouring into me, believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself, even when it was like hard for me to get up, and this is far beyond, you know, in sickness and in health and, you know, those things. It is just sometimes that the road, like you can't see.
Yeah.
You can't see beyond what is
and
like
that was
in your
I was
own
going to ask
way.
you, what in your worst times, how do you get through it?
Yes, prayer.
Prayer and family.
And family. Prayer and family. When you do want to give up, you know, or when you just like, I don't even know, like, why, like, you know, why did I have kids? Why did I get married? Why I'm, you know, why I'm an educator? Why I'm, you know, you have so many whys, and it's so easy to step outside of your core and your foundation. It's so easy to run from things and hide from things and not deal with them head on. It's so easy to do all of those things, and sometimes it does have to take. It does take that family.
Yes.
And,
Now listen, we are already almost out of time, and I got some more questions I gotta ask you. You know. Okay. Let me ask you this: name a teacher that impacted your life.
Oh, Elizabeth Maloney and Kimberly Cooper. I'm gonna sneak in a second one. Both were my teachers at Lincoln Park Academy.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say as a bonus,
Okay.
Miss Sullivan, Bertha Sullivan.
Oh,
And that
yes.
was third grade.
Oh,
Start,
yes.
kind of
Oh,
start
yes.
to build that
Miss
all the way up.
Sullivan.
Miss
Oh,
Sullivan,
yes.
honey,
Yes.
listen, taught me so many lessons in third grade. But then there's the Miss Maloney and Miss Kimberly Cooper that round those things out. And again, just very strong women that again gave a lot of life to me and became like second mothers to me, and are so much a part of my journey as to where I'm at today.
Can you name a book that we could maybe out there read that could be inspiring, something that touched your life?
You know, two folds to that. My spiritual journey is always going to be about anything about leading your faith or stepping into your faith and understanding more about your spirituality, regardless of who or what you believe in. The second thing, anything about leadership by John Maxwell. He gives some very key components and some very key processes to help you to become a great leader.
Speaking about leadership, what advice would you give someone going into leadership position for the first time?
Give yourself grace and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Thank you. I would love to keep asking you questions, but we have running out of time.
Yes.
But you have been such a blessing, just as you have talked to us about your life and pushing through your worst times, and even the advice you gave for someone who's going into leadership for the first time. I wish we could have expanded on that a little more, but if you don't mind, we want to have you back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We want to have you back so that we can talk more about what it takes to bring yourself to the place of where you want to go.
Yes, Absolutely.
I don't want to say to be
Yes,
successful,
that's
but to
right.
just
No, let's
be
do it.
able to do that. So it may be another year or so, but
Hey,
I'm
that's
glad you
okay.
said I can bring you back on the
Absolutely.
show.
Anytime.
Thank you so much, Ms. Greene. Thank you for all that you do. We didn't even get a chance to talk about all that you. I want to know, how did you how did you take a D school and make it an A school? We didn't
Absolutely.
even touch that.
That's okay.
So I may have to have you back next month.
That's right. And I will more than happy. You know, I will show up. Absolutely.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's
Yes.
been a wonderful interview.
Yes,
Thank you so much
Thank
for coming.
you for having me.
And thank you for what you do
Thank you.
for this community, for our children, and for everyone that your life has touched.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing. Do it because it's the right thing to do, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Thank
yes,
you so
yes.
much again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Mills.